So welcome. So today you notice that we have another accomplice here. We got Steve joining us. Again, yes, I don't know, you may have seen the last one. I don't know what order we're going to be putting these out, so this might be the first one. You know?
You never know. I was shocked that we all wore the same clothes again.
Yeah.
What a coincidence.
I wear these clothes all the time, though, so it's
Every day.
Not that big a deal for me. But, so he was kind enough to bring his Brew and discuss that. We had a previous episode talking about Mike's Mash and Boil, and that kind of inspired us to, or Stephen did, say, hey, I want to come on and talk about this. So here he is talking about this. So this is, I don't know. I guess I'll let you talk about it. So,
all right.
Yeah, run us through it. I don't even know what questions to ask.
Well, one question I had was I kept mixing it between Brew and Brewzilla.
Yeah, I can imagine why.
Yeah, so it's a little confusing. It does say on the control panel down here, it does say Brew, and then the sleeve that it came with says Brewzilla. And I didn't know what was the difference when I ordered them either, but apparently when they were going and getting bigger and moving outside of Australia and starting to ship worldwide, something happened and they had to change they couldn't use Brew in other parts of the world for whatever reason. So Brewzilla is what it has become. So you're not going to find any systems, I don't believe, any longer now that they're coming out like their version 4. They all are Brewzillas now.
Oh, okay. So I guess that's something I didn't realize it was an Australian. Yeah, those Aussies are.
They got a lot of brewing equipment.
These guys are crazy with brewing.
Yeah, they're on the cutting edge.
I don't know if you guys are ever going to get sponsored by Kegland, but I love Kegland.
Oh,
products,
yeah.
And this is one of their products. So.
Cool.
Yeah, well, I'm a huge proponent of the Firmzillas.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, I just bought this sweet little adjustable pressure liquid outpost for your keg. So instead of your normal disconnect, you use this, and it's got a dial on it, and you can increase or decrease the pressure coming out of the keg.
You're going to have to show me that because I have one.
Yeah.
And I bought 2 of them. This is back when I first started getting into Kegland stuff, and the thing leaks. Both of them leak.
Oh,
so I don't know
does
if I'm
it?
doing something wrong, so maybe you'll have to show me how to use it.
Okay. I don't have a whole lot of knowledge. I just put it on there.
Yeah. So it was the one so you don't have to use as much of like you can use
length
a shorter
of a hose.
length of hose, right?
Yeah. So, well, mixed reviews. I guess we'll have to do one on that.
Yeah, no kidding.
It could be user error. So.
Yeah. But yeah, Steve's the original electric brewer. He was like the first person I met who had an electric brewing system, and I've been jealous. I helped take part in one of his brew days, and it's awfully convenient.
Yeah, I was in a car accident a few years ago and tore my shoulder, and so using my old 3-tier system was a lot more work than it needed to be. Mm-hmm. And so with this, I started looking around. I found these all-in-one systems, and then I started looking at cost. And Grainfather was so expensive, and then there weren't as many options as there are now. I mean, now you got like Anvil and Claw and Hammer, and there's so many of them, right? This one was the least expensive of. There were, I think, 3 out at that time. This was the least expensive of all of them, and so it's the one I went with.
Well, not only in my mind, it's Brewzilla, Digiboil, and the Mash and Boils are like at the lower end of the market. The more
Correct.
affordable range.
Yeah. This one does not have Bluetooth. It doesn't have, there's a few other things that it doesn't have. Like one of the things I wish that it had is I do wish that this pipe here was actually a sight glass.
Oh yeah.
It'd be a little bit easier on a brew day, but outside of that, this does absolutely everything I need. Makes my brew day so much easier. Mentioned tearing out my shoulder. I don't have to lift hard. I have to lift one basket one time, let it drain, and then it becomes much lighter, and I'm done.
So just to be the knucklehead here, just to make sure that, for the sake of our ears. But so this has a controller in the front. So you set the temp that you want to mash in at, right?
Yep.
And then you mash in normally. You have a basket in there with a series of filters. You mash in, and you mash for however long.
Yep.
Then you pull out that basket, let it drain like you just referred to, and then you boil in there.
Yep.
So during the mash, you recirculate though, because there's a pump in here, and it's pumping up through that tube at the top, and is doing a recirculating mash.
Yep.
Then you pull the basket out, and you boil.
It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, that's pretty simple stuff.
And
So
when you're done with the boil, you said there's a wort chiller that comes with it.
It does come. Yeah, it does come with a stainless steel wort chiller. I'm not sure if they're still sending those out. I would imagine they probably are, but it's an immersion chiller. And then I just like we do with any other immersion chiller, the last 15 minutes or so, you throw it in and let it sanitize that way.
They can use the pump to pump out the finished wort after the boil, or do you just pump it out?
I don't. It does have a spigot on the front there, ball valve there, and so I use that because I try and aerate my wort as I'm filling up the fermenter. That's smart. And so I just do it by I have a filter, looks like a funnel with a filter in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I just pull off that, and that seems to aerate it pretty well.
Oh yeah, for sure. Okay. Yeah, pretty simple. Yeah.
So on our mash and boil episode, I was talking about the malt pipe setup, and I have some video of how it filters out, and Steven was just showing us the filters, and it's pretty intricate.
So in this system, it does actually. There's 4 different filters that are put in at different levels. It does come with a false bottom, so here's one of the filters. This sits right at the above the burner basket up off.
Yeah.
So the malt pipe sits on top of that.
Yep. And then inside the malt pipe, there's 3 different filters, and we will go through these. It does have and this one we'll kind of talk. It goes from top to bottom. So the first one that's in here, it kind of helps diffuse. So as you're running the pump and you're constantly recirculating, this particular one will help kind of in it, just like we've always talked about, right? You don't want channeling when you're doing your vorlofts or anything like that, any recirculation. So this is what's built in there to help out with that. Well, that's going to sound good on the mic. All right, and then there's 2 more. There's a real fine mesh filter, and then another one, just another regular false bottom type filter, just to hold all the grain in. With this and using the fine mesh, I don't ever have to use rice hulls. I know that when I was watching your guys' video for the other one, you talked about the rice hulls.
Yeah, a lot of people use them, yeah.
I didn't have to. I never have had to use rice hulls with this system.
And I had a bunch of people actually leave comments in the video as well as on some Facebook groups that they haven't ran into any trouble. And I'm just assuming that maybe I just mill my grain way fine. Mine's basically a flour when I put it in. Yeah. Which may explain why I get crazy efficiency. Maybe I should increase the gap a little bit.
I've been thinking that recently too.
Yeah. So, but I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. And so it's a really straightforward system. Grain goes in between all of these different mesh filters, just recirculates, and I get clear wort going into the right into the kettle.
Yeah, and then just like the mash and boil, it's got little rails up at the top, so when you lift the malt pipe out, it rests on the rails and it can drain.
Yeah, the difference between what you had was yours looked like they were bolts almost, kind of sticking out, right? Mm-hmm. These are these little triangular shaped feet that just rest right on the same sort of setup as what was in the Digiboil.
Yeah. Well, and one thing I noticed too is, so is there a lip on the bottom of the malt pipe where all the filters rest at?
It's a very small lip.
Very small, okay. Yeah, which keeps them in. That's interesting. Yeah. That's going to make cleaning a lot easier. And then in the bottom of the Brewzilla, it's the walls have nothing protruding from them.
Right.
Where on the mash and boil, the spigot's there.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
And so when you put the mash, the malt pipe back in, you kind of have to maneuver it to make sure it's not near that spigot, or it won't quite fit in.
Yeah, the new version of this is going to be whenever it comes out. I don't know when it's going to be here in America, but I'm looking forward to upgrading to that, and then just keeping this one as my hot liquor tank, because then I can control the hot liquor a little bit better with that too. But with the new one, it's going to have Bluetooth. It's going to have all those fancy things, but at a discounted rate compared to the more expensive systems that are out there. And then there's some other just like structural design things that are going to be better. Just like where the tube is for the pump, instead of it being off to the side, it'll be at the center, and they're going to build the bottom so that the bottom is like a bowl. Everything's going to drain right out the bottom. So
kind of like a conical fermenter type of setup. Yeah.
So it'll make it so there's less less wasted beer when you're moving it. So with that, then I might use the pump to actually move it into a fermenter because it'll be faster that way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, no dead space.
Right.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So I assume you set the temp on it. Does it have like a delay timer? Does it do steps?
It does do steps. I know you were talking about on yours. You think it only does one. I have.
Yeah, I just set the temp and then look at my watch and say, oh, it's time to bump it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one does up to 6 steps,
Mm-hmm.
and so usually the night before I leave it at I'll leave the temperature to be at 32 degrees or something, so I know it's not ever going to kick on until I want it to go.
Mm-hmm.
Usually set it to go like 5 in the morning. I'm a morning brewer. I'd rather get my brewing done up front and go enjoy my day after that.
Mm-hmm.
So I usually set it for about 5 o'clock. It kicks on, so by the time I actually get up, putz around the house a little bit, it's ready to go. And then I can just put the grain in and get going. And so that's step 1 for me. But then I've got step 2 where I'll put in there, so step 1 leaves it at 32. Step 2 is going to be like my strike temperature. And then after that, I just start, I do step 3 for, for the actual mashing temperature. And then after that, I let it go. I don't really fill it out. There's people that could do that where if they want to do step mashes and they want to walk away and just know it's going to increase to all the different rests. I mean, you can do that. I'm not. I don't get that fancy.
Now, do you feel comfortable walking away from it for a period of time with the pump running? I mean,
I do.
Okay.
The only thing that I've ever run into is trying to heat my sparge water too, which I have a separate sparge water heater for that. When I'm using that, the problem I ran into this last time is that the circuit blew, and I went out and got coffee, went to Dutch Brothers, came back, and everything was off.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
No.
So that kind of slowed my day down.
Yeah.
But it's not. It wasn't a big deal. Everything looks like it's working fine. The fermentation took off pretty good. So. But
no problems with the pump
never,
clogging or overflowing it or anything like that.
Not doing that. I have had one time. I'm kind of up in the air still. I read a lot of things where people are like, "Let the pump run the entire brew." There's other people that say, "No, don't do that." And there was one time I did a batch, and it was the squirrel one that we did back in 2020, the Black is Beautiful one. That one got clogged because I had that one running throughout the day, and that was such a sticky, thick beer, and it gummed up my my pump. So, I spent the end of the brew day tearing that all apart and cleaning it out and stuff. So, but that's been the only trouble I've ever had with it.
Okay, good. And you mentioned on the bottom is overload protection.
Overload? No, it has on the bottom has a. It just has the port for the pump. It also has a. Are you talking about for the electrode?
Yeah.
Okay. No, the fuse broke or popped in my garage because that's where I brew.
Okay.
And it was just go to the circuit.
Yeah, I was just curious because when we were talking before the show, you mentioned that they made it easier to get at that on the version 4. And I was going to say that the mash and boil's got an overload protection.
Oh, okay.
And the breaker on it is underneath. You have to push it. So same problem. Now you got to lift the whole thing up and push a button. Yeah.
Well, on the new version, they actually took the bottom off. On this, all the 3s and older, they actually sealed the bottom off. It's just 3 screws or whatever. But on the 4, there's not going to be a bottom plate anymore. Mm-hmm. So it is going to be accessible. So if you had it, like where your pump does get clogged, it's still going to be a mess to try and deal with in the middle of a brew day. But you could, just by, if you slid it off to the edge just enough so that it's still safe, but you could get to the pump at that point. In this one, on that day, I did not have that option.
Yeah, okay.
It was not going to happen.
Well, listen, and how long do you think you've had it?
It's weird. I was thinking about that on my way here because I had a feeling you were going to ask me that question. And it was 2000. It had to have been 2019 that I got it. So we're looking at 3 years.
3 years.
I have probably 50 plus batches on it.
Same pump, right?
Same pump.
Original pump. Because that would be one of my concerns is that the integrated pump might burn out. So
a lot of the research that I was doing, people were talking about just about how they run into all kinds of problems with these systems. Like the motherboards get wet, and if they get wet, then they short out and they burn out, and you got to replace them. And so I was a little bit like, well, do I need to buy and have some of those on hand just in case? I'm saying this now. Do you have any? There's some wood to knock on.
Yeah.
It's been, I've got 50-some batches in there and not one issue with it at all. So I'm pretty meticulous so that if I see any liquid that starts to go down the side, even though it's designed so that it's kind of flailed out to try and prevent it from getting in there, I wipe that stuff down right away. I don't want the moisture on the circuitry.
Yeah, and I'm sure, the forums, it's like people with problems are the ones that would post
exactly
the most.
Yeah.
Not saying there's anything wrong with people having problems. That's how I get most of my solutions. But,
right.
So I'm sure you'll see everything out there.
Yeah, you're gonna find the problems that you want to find, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the internet. It happens, and so.
Yeah. That's pretty close. That's pretty.
Yeah, it's a nice system.
Yeah. So you talked about sparging earlier.
Yeah.
This is, I assume that these are all just basically brew in a bag type of setup. So how often do you, is it just like on big batches that you have to sparge, or?
So with this here, because I recirculate the entire time, I'm not really doing any sparging.
Okay.
What we were talking about was because the one of the cons to a system like this is that you can't do like really big beers. I can't do a barley wine. I can't do 5 gallons of barley wine if I wanted to do that and let it sit for a real long time. Like I just don't have that option.
Yeah.
Unless I want to do like a double mash, but I don't have that much time to do it. So for me, I would much rather do, something I found online that I think is a great idea, and it's taking my old 10-gallon cooler and using that as my actual mash tun.
Yeah.
And then I can set this, set it up so I recirculate right through that instead.
Yeah. Okay.
And this will heat it as needed.
Yeah. You just doing this to maintain the temperature, and you're just recirculating into the cooler and back out.
Yep.
So your hot liquor tank, do you normally use that with bigger batches, or you use that?
So the hot liquor tank that I use now, or is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
So the one I use right now is it's a Brewer's Edge. I think it's Brewer's Edge. What's the Sparge water heater?
Mm-hmm.
I get 2 options. I can either turn on like 1,000 watts or 500 watts, and then the other option I have is turning it off or on. I don't get to pick the temperature; it just goes to 168 and shuts off. Mm-hmm. So I use that, and in the setup that I have at home, I have that propped up pretty high, so I can hold 4 gallons of water in that. And I just turn that on too and let that get up to 168 because all the recipes that I brew, that's usually my temperature that I'm hitting for sparge water, right? Or mash out temperature. So I just I have it set up so that with this, the grain basket actually sits just underneath the spigot that's on that, and I can just open it up and let it fill up, and I just kind of keep opening and refilling it. So I'm not doing, as I talked about before, I don't have to lift a bunch of things.
Yeah.
I just pull the spigot open and fill up the basket again.
So when are you sparging like that?
So that's how I do it every batch.
Oh, okay. Because I thought you did full volume.
No.
boils.
Yeah. Okay.
No.
Yeah. That was where I was confused.
Okay.
Oh, I got you. Yeah. No, I can't really do full volume in it because that's just the space.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah, because I do the same thing with the mash and boil. Most times is I do, I'll mash in it and then I run sparge water into it after I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, I think when you came over the one time that I was brewing with this, I did. I had that water heater in a room, kind of off to the side, and I was running back and forth with a gallon container, filling it up. But since moving and I have more space now, I have that set up so it's up high.
Yep.
And I don't just pull open the valve and it does the work.
Oh,
Gravity works it all for me.
Yep.
So
Yeah, I do the same thing.
yeah.
Well, sweet.
Yeah.
Well, excellent. I'm glad to get another piece of equipment on here to review.
Yeah.
Let you know what the options are. Like I said, I think the Brewzilla, the Digiboil, and the Mash and Boil are all on I don't want to say the bottom end, like they're garbage, but the more affordable
Yeah, they're the
side of the all-in-one systems. Yeah, we're talking about like the anvil systems and the claw hammer, and like I just can't part with that much cash.
Yeah, that's just
don't
crazy.
even talk about the Warthog.
The Warthog, yeah. It's like,
they're
basic
great
brewing.
systems, I'm sure,
Oh,
but it's just
man.
more than I want to put into
I would hope they're
a
great
system.
systems.
Yeah.
You can win medals though without spending that much money.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. Yeah, no kidding. Oh my goodness. Well, if I won the lottery, I have 3 of them sitting around.
3 of them, yeah.
One in the backyard, one in the front.
I'll just make coffee on one of them.
Yeah, well, that's probably one to heat up for tea. Yeah.
So, any last notes? Anything we want to add? Questions?
I would highly recommend this system to anybody. Same thing that you mentioned in the last video. If you can find a great deal on one, pick it up. I do want to get a second one. If I can get the 4.0 one that's available, then this is going to become my hot liquor tank, because it'll give me more flexibility with being able to control the temperature of the mash out. If I wanted to do something crazy, I have that ability. Made my brewing life a whole lot easier. You did, actually, you brought up something on the last video too. You talked about the boil, and the boil on this is not. It's about the same as what your video had showed. It's not super vigorous because this is the 110 volt. So I have found that I have to compensate by adding a little bit more hops than I would off my old system.
Okay.
That's a combination of both, altitude, because I'm from Phoenix, and so we're much lower in altitude. And then also, because this doesn't boil as hot here, I have to, and this boil is not very vigorous. I do put a little bit more hops in all of my beers than probably what others might do if they're on a propane system. Yeah,
and we do that, already because of the altitude, like you mentioned. But that makes sense. And I know mine, I think I brew with the garage door open, so if there's any breeze, the boil looks so pathetic.
Yeah.
But if there's no wind blowing, that looks okay. So we got a little video of the boil that I'll put right here.
This last one I did, though, I don't know what was going on with that boil, but I was a little bit nervous. I was going to have my first boil over on this. So it was really good. But then, I knocked it down, and it was fine after that. Then it was just like, those videos. So.
Yeah. I got nothing else. So
great.
But, thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. Thanks for joining us, Steve.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
No problem, guys.
So, if you have any questions, recommendations, you want to bug Steve and say, hey, what about this? Comment. Leave a comment. Like, share. Bell. What else? What else we got?
I think that's it.
Comments.
I guess
that's it. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So,
well,
thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching our video. Check out our website at coloradobrewtalk.com for more great content.
While you're there, be sure to leave us a comment or drop us a line with your thoughts.
You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter at CO Brew Talk, or follow the links below. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any future content.
Or episodes, as the case may be.